Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here. Alright everybody, my name is Kevin, one half of your Real Movie Guys crew, and welcome back to another episode of the Solo Reel, a series where I go it alone reviewing your favorite movies and television. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the newest release on Netflix, The Old Guard. The Old Guard stars Charlize Theron, where she leads a group of mercenaries who are immortal. They've been alive for centuries. They take on a special covert mission, however they do suddenly become exposed, and now they have to find a way to get away from their pursuers who are trying to capture them. On top of that, there's also a newly christened immortal who they have to help understand and guide her through this whole process at this point. What I expect from Netflix movies usually is I don't expect a lot, but when I see a really interesting premise, I do get excited. I do know this series is based off a graphic novel of the same name. I haven't read the graphic novel. I've heard nothing but good things. I remember a while ago I saw cover art or something, and it did intrigue me. Just one of those things I didn't pursue. This movie, though, however, again, I can't say what based on the source material, but overall this movie I would say is extremely mediocre. Charlize Theron stars in it. She is amazing. Every scene she steals when she's in it. She's proven herself before in Atomic Blonde, which wasn't the greatest movie. However, she was almost trying to go, I want to say, the Keanu Reeves route, becoming a badass. She doesn't disappoint. I mean, when she was in Mad Max Furiosa, she was amazing too. That's kind of what kickstarted this whole badass movement for her. She still maintains that in this movie without a doubt. Any scene that she's not in, I feel does suffer, unfortunately, in this movie. But there's quite a few good scenes with her. I mean, she hits her emotional beats that you would expect when they're talking about living as an immortal and, having to deal with that. Also, just kicking ass. She's amazing. I think the action scenes also, if you're an action movie junkie, I pretty much am for the most part. I think they're competently shot. I would argue maybe there's nothing relatively new as far as the action. If you've seen John Wick, this movie tries to copy a lot of that quick John Wick motion. Quick gunshots to the head, using cool different moves with guns. There's a scene with the shotgun where they drop the shotgun on the ground, they shoots the guy in the head with it. Again, it tries some different techniques, not necessarily different, but competent. You know what I mean? I just want to say competent. I don't want to hate. I mean, I'm trying to remember, there's an opening scene, there's a plane scene which is very well done, then about two other, so maybe there's about 4, maybe 5 total action set pieces, not very big. Again, they're competent though, so I think if you're an action junkie, it's worth your time to watch those. The character backgrounds are also pretty interesting. The cast, they do a good job. I don't want to say, we're going to get more into character later, but I think the character backgrounds are all interesting. Each of the immortals, there's a total of 5. Each of them have an interesting background. The one character, played by Matthias Schoenaerts, he's Booker. You find out, he talks about his son dying and him being unable to save him, even though he's immortal. There's nothing he can do, and so they delve into that a little bit. Then there's also Joe and Nikki, who are played by Maureen Kenzari and Luca Marinelli. They're interesting, they're lovers, so they talk about how they would kill each other over and over in the Crusades, but yet they found each other and they've been together ever since. Again, very interesting backstories. Do they do anything with that? We'll get into that later. The most interesting one, I will say, though, is about Quinn. Now, Quinn is played by Van Veronica... No, I'm not sure if I said her name right. I probably didn't. I apologize. Her story is the most interesting. She is with Andy, played by Charlize Theron, for quite a while, and they get accused of being witches, so they're tortured, and they go through this whole process, and eventually her, Andy, and Quinn think they're going to be burned alive. However, they decide, the townspeople who are persecuting them as witches separate them, and they decide to drown Quinn in an Iron Maiden, and since she's an immortal, she can't die. So she's constantly being drowned. She drowns, comes back to life, drowns, comes back to life. Supposedly until currently. It's revealed at the end of the movie what's the total situation is with that. But again, I think that's a really dark and cool scene. I hate to say, it was shot actually very visibly interesting too. They show like the proceeds of the Iron Maiden, showing it being dumped overboard, and then you even see like the fear in her eyes as they zoom into the water. You see her like suffocating and then rejuvenating, suffocating, rejuvenating. Some dark stuff, but again, a very interesting take, I have to say. Overall, that's really what I have to say about this movie as far as positive. Interesting. All right, the concept's interesting. In fact, you have a group of mercenaries who can't die. It's almost in the vein of like a Highlander or a vampire series where you have these people who've been around forever dealing with that. And then they're a group of mercenaries, fighting to quote unquote save the world in their own way. Again, a very, very interesting concept, which I just think is not really successful, I hate to say. The pacing of this movie is absolutely terrible. The problem is they introduce a new immortal. Now you have two different stories. You have them introducing a new immortal, played by Kiki Lane, who plays Nile. She's a Marine, or I'm not sure a Marine. Let's just say a soldier in the in the army in Afghanistan. She's killed and then she comes back to life, and the others know about her because they can see her through their dreams. So they're gonna go grab her and bring her with them. And then, at that point, I kind of thought the movie was going to be them showing her the ropes. And then they introduced this weird subplot, or I guess it comes to the main plot, really, at that point, about a pharmaceuticals company that discovers them and wants to capture them so they can, cure disease and save the world using their bodies. Again, interesting. It's just these two ideas drag the pacing. They're all over the place. It's just a shame because, like I said, I think either one of the stories I think would have worked. However, merging the two together just became so cliche and just drags the pacing. It's very slow at times. When you don't have those action scenes going on, you definitely feel it. Even when Charlize isn't even on the screen, you definitely feel it. Overall, the actors aren't very good, besides Charlize Theron. And also Chiwetel Ejiofor. He was in 12 Years a Slave. He's a very, very good actor. He's kind of phoning it in. He's maybe the second most competent actor in the film, but overall, I do feel his performance was phoned in. The thing they try to do, which I think is kind of wrong as far as script writing, is in order to make you feel for the characters. Again, I mentioned earlier how I do like the characters' backgrounds, which I still do. Don't get me wrong. The problem is that background just defines that character, and it's like, oh, okay, now you have to feel for them when they're in a a tight neck situation. Like, oh, okay, the guy, Booker lost his son, so we have to make you feel bad for him and care.
I had 3 sons. I'm the youngest one, Jean-Pierre. I was the last one to die. He was 42 and cancer took him. The only way is forward now.
What do you mean?
He'll always and forever be the young woman right there. But everyone around you, everyone you love, is gonna grow old. It's gonna suffer and it's gonna die.
All right, it's just cheap. It doesn't feel earned. We get it. We get that backstory when we need to feel an emotion for a character. And I don't like that kind of script writing. I think it's really forced. And, you didn't put in the investment earlier on, so why should I care about these characters when you're suddenly telling me I have to feel for them? Not a good style, not a good look. On top of style, this movie has no style. It's very bland. Again, I would say it's shot competently, but the problem is there's no style or edge to the movie. When you get like a movie like John Wick or even Die Hard, something as old as that, they all have a sense of style to them as far as the action. This movie pretty much just saw other action movies and said, all right, let's put that in there and we'll just shoot like a normal looking film. I think it would have benefited maybe from a hyper stylization, maybe a different editing approach, because it's very bland and very, very just Nothing original. I mean, I feel like I'm watching a made-for-TV movie at times, and I shouldn't feel that way, especially when I'm watching an action movie with Charlize Theron. I shouldn't have that kind of emotion when I'm watching that. I also think even though the action's great, and I do compliment the action in the movie, it's a little bit too shaky at times for me. It's almost approaching on Jason Bourne level of shaky. The whole Bourne series. I love the Bourne series. However, they are notorious for the shaky cam where I can't see what's going on. I do feel like they fixed it maybe towards the latter end of the movie. However, it's still present, and I still think it obscures the action enough to where it becomes an annoyance, so I'm not a huge fan of that. The other thing I would say is the villain in this movie. I really didn't touch on it because he's just so bad. It's played by Harry Melling, who our Harry Potter fans out there may know him as Dudley. Which was a fun fight to see. My wife was cracking up when she saw who it was, and I was like, oh my god, that's freaking Dudley. Looking thin and fit, in this movie. But he's like a cartoon villain in a movie that takes itself so seriously. It's very out of place. It just makes absolutely no sense. I don't want to say, on top of the pacing of this movie, I think its tone is all over. It's not even all over the place. It's just a serious tone, which I think it could have complemented. I don't want to say from humor, because I don't want it to turn into a Marvel movie, but maybe not taking itself so seriously would have added a little more enjoyment to what I was watching. Because unfortunately, everyone's so deadpan and bleak, I didn't find much enjoyment. And the last negative I'll give it is the music does not fit this movie. It's a synthesized pop hip hop soundtrack. It just felt very out of place for me. Again, I think it's a good soundtrack, just not for this movie. Something maybe a little darker would have been better for this. I just don't know why you're trying to give this movie a dark tone, yet you have a huge hip hop pop soundtrack going on. That doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. But overall, like I said, The Old Guard is streaming on Netflix. So if you do want to check it out, it's up to you. Like I said, if you like action movies, you got nothing else better to do, I recommend it. I'm going to give The Old Guard a D+.
Son of a bitch!
Like I said, definitely not what I was expecting. I think I was expecting something a little better, especially I actually read up on Charlize Theron. She makes literally one movie a year since 2014. This is the movie you picked? Really?
Can you please not do that again?
I mean, maybe the script probably would have looked good. I might have even said, the same time I might have enjoyed it, but it just couldn't nail it. It couldn't land it for me. It's just too unoriginal. Again, interesting concept. I actually do really like the concept. I'm a huge Highlander fan, and I was looking for something that just wasn't there. But let me know what you guys think. If you watch the movie, let me know in the comments what you think about it. I would also like to thank, all you guys for joining me for this episode of The Solo Reel. You can follow me on Twitter at GasMashDragon27 or through the main channel at TheReelMovieGuy. Again, my name is Kevin. I'm one half of your Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. I'll catch you next time.